The night he cast her out his black wife, their newborn twins, he thought he was ending her story. He didn't know she was only being reborn. He kicked out his black wife and their newborn twins. In the rain, her stitches still raw, her nightgown clinging to her skin, blood and water pooling beneath her bare feet on the marble steps they once called home. The mansion lights glowed gold behind her, every window glistening with warmth she could no longer touch. Inside, Ethan Crane stood framed in the doorway, polished, perfect, untouchable. His assistant, Sienna Ward, leaned behind him. Her smirk, as sharp as glass, is greater than, "Take your things and go, Naomi," Ethan said, voice flat as steel. "You and those bastards don't belong here." He didn't flinch at her trembling or the cries of the twins in her arms. He just turned away, tightening the belt of his designer robe as though dismissing a servant. Naomi staggered into the street, the rain swallowing her sobs. Her chest burned with humiliation and disbelief. This was the man she'd trusted, with her heart, the man who'd promised forever. The mansion gates closed behind her with a heavy click that sounded like a coffin sealing shut. Her phone buzzed in her shaking hand. An unknown number. One message. 3 words. "Is greater than stay where you are." Naomi froze, rain dripping from her lashes. That number, she hadn't seen it in 7 years. It was her mother. "Welcome back, y'all. Happy new month, my beautiful family. I've missed you all. Thank you for standing by me through the technical issues. God is helping us get everything back on track. Before we begin, I speak grace over everyone watching. May God keep you in good health, protect you till Christmas, and carry you safely into the new year. To the women, may He strengthen and favor you. To the men, may He guide your steps and bless your efforts. Amen. Please stay connected with my stories. Share them with your family and friends. And don't forget to subscribe. Watch till the end. Another powerful story drops tomorrow. Now, let's begin. Headlights cut through the downpour, sleek black SUVs rolling up the hill toward her. As the first door opened, Naomi's heart stumbled. The world she'd run from was coming for her again, and this time it wasn't asking permission. The engines were the first thing Naomi heard, a low, synchronized hum cutting through the downpour. She blinked through the rain, vision blurry, as the black SUVs rolled to a stop in front of her. Their headlights painted long streaks of gold across the wet pavement. Doors opened in perfect unison, and for a moment it didn't feel like rescue, it felt like judgment. Men in dark suits stepped out, their movements sharp, controlled. One held an umbrella so large it could have covered a world, and from behind it, a woman emerged, Evelyn Street James. Her presence bent the storm itself. She stood beneath that umbrella, unbothered by the rain that lashed against the city. Her heels didn't slip on the wet pavement. Her black coat, a tailored, severe piece that whispered money and power, didn't dare wrinkle. Her face, though older than Naomi remembered, carried the same authority that used to fill entire rooms. Naomi's lips parted, but no sound came. She hadn't seen her mother in 7 years, not since the night she'd walked out of the Street James mansion with nothing but a duffel bag and a promise to make her own way. Evelyn's gaze swept over her, slow and assessing. From Naomi's drenched hair to the shivering twins pressed against her chest, every detail registered, and for the first time in Naomi's life, her mother's expression cracked, not anger, not disappointment, but something deeper, grief. Evelyn crossed the distance between them. Rain hissed against the umbrella as she lowered herself to the ground, kneeling in the cold street beside her daughter. Naomi's strength broke at the sight. "Why are you here?" Naomi whispered, her voice shaking. "I didn't call you." Evelyn's voice was low, steady, and devastatingly calm. "It's greater than. You said you never wanted my help," she said, reaching out to touch Naomi's cheek, her gloved hand trembling just slightly. "But I didn't raise you to die in the street." Tears blurred Naomi's sight again, but this time they were more than pain, they were confusion, release, and the smallest hint of relief. Evelyn nodded to her head of security. "Get her inside, carefully, and make sure those babies are warm before I take a breath." The men moved instantly. wrapping Naomi and the twins in blankets, guiding her toward the nearest SUV. Her body resisted, too weak to stand, but Evelyn's arms were there steady, certain as if no time had passed at all. Up the hill, the golden light of the mansion flickered. Behind the glass, Ethan Crane's silhouette stood rigid. Even through the sheets of rain, Naomi could see the moment recognition dawned in his posture. He froze. Then he stepped back, vanishing into the dark house that had once been hers. As the convoy pulled away, Naomi's head fell against her mother's shoulder. The scent of jasmine and rain filled her senses, familiar, distant, safe. Evelyn brushed damp curls from her daughter's face, whispering something Naomi could barely hear. "Is greater than, he took you from me once. He won't again." And with that, Naomi's world went black, not from fear, but from the weight of being found. Naomi woke to silence. Thick, golden silence. For a long moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then the scent of lavender sheets and the distant hum of city traffic brought her back. She turned her head. Two bassinets sat beside her, perfectly still except for the slow rise and fall of her twins' tiny chests. The room around her wasn't familiar, but the wealth in it was unmistakable. Floor-to-ceiling glass framed the skyline, dawn spilling rose and silver light across marble floors. Everything gleamed. The vases, the mirrors, a faint glint of gold in the walls. It was the kind of luxury she'd spent years trying to forget. A penthouse. Her mother's, she realized. Naomi sat up slowly, pain tightening across her abdomen. Her nightgown had been replaced by silk pajamas. Her wounds were clean and bandaged. On the side table, a tray of tea steamed beside folded documents. The door opened. Evelyn Street James entered like the morning itself, elegant, controlled, untouchable. She carried a tablet in one hand, her expression unreadable. "You're awake," Evelyn said softly. "Good. I was starting to worry you'd inherited your father's stubbornness along with his cheekbones." Naomi blinked. The name of her father, the man who'd died when she was 15, unlocked a rush of memories. The sprawling estate in the Hamptons, the endless charity galas, the echo of her mother's heels in marble corridors. Naomi remembered wanting to run barefoot in the grass, not across red carpets. She remembered her mother's eyes always somewhere else, fixed on markets and mergers instead of birthdays and bedtime stories. She'd left that world at 22, chasing art and love over business and bloodlines. She'd met Ethan soon after. He'd seemed fascinated by her independence, her defiance. But now, lying in a penthouse that belonged to the woman she'd sworn to escape, Naomi realized the cruel irony. She'd traded one cage for another. Evelyn set the tablet on the table and slid a thick folder toward her. "You need to see this." Inside were photographs, documents, bank statements, a recording of Ethan's voice, low and mocking. Naomi's breath caught as she flipped through page after page of proof affairs, offshore accounts, false signatures, entire business deals forged in her name. Her throat closed. "You knew?" she whispered. "You knew all this, and you didn't stop it?" Evelyn's gaze softened, but her tone stayed firm. "Is greater than, you wouldn't have listened." Naomi stared at her, tears burning behind her eyes. "Is greater than, but I made sure you'd survive," Evelyn continued quietly, reaching out to rest a hand on her daughter's arm. "When you were ready to see, I wanted you to have something left." Naomi turned back to the dossier. Each page was another betrayal, another lie, but beneath the pain, something else stirred. A realization. Her mother hadn't just been watching, she'd been preparing. And suddenly, Naomi understood. This wasn't the end of her marriage. It was the beginning of something far more dangerous. The next morning, the city was a blur of steel and gold beneath the penthouse windows. Naomi stood barefoot before the glass, holding one of her twins close to her chest. The baby's small heartbeat steadied hers. The skyline stretched endlessly, a reminder of how small she'd felt just days ago. Behind her, Evelyn's voice cut through the quiet like silk drawn over steel. "You've always underestimated what you were born into." Naomi turned. Her mother sat at the long marble table, scrolling through a holographic display of stock tickers and digital documents. The insignia St. James Global Group pulsed faintly at the top corner. Evelyn gestured for her to sit. "You should know what's yours, Naomi. What's always been yours." Naomi hesitated, placing her baby gently in the nearby bassinet before sitting across from her. "What do you mean?" Evelyn's fingers danced across the screen. Images filled the air. Runway shows, skyscrapers, glossy magazine covers, tech logos. St. James Global Group. I built it from a single couture line when you were a child. It now spans 30 countries, 4 industries, and assets worth more than Ethan Crane could dream of. Naomi felt her stomach tighten. "That's your empire, Mother, not mine." A small smile curved Evelyn's lips. "Not entirely true." She tapped again, and a new file appeared, one Naomi instantly recognized. The Crane Holdings logo. Ethan's company. Her husband's pride. "Years ago," Evelyn said, her tone cool and deliberate, "when you announced you were marrying him, I investigated. His finances were fragile, so I made a discreet investment through a trust. In your name." Naomi's breath caught. "In my name?" Evelyn nodded. "Every car, every home, every account Ethan Crane has touched is tied to capital that originated from St. James. The contracts are ironclad. You are the silent co-owner of his empire." The room tilted for a moment as Naomi absorbed the words. All those years, Ethan's arrogance, his belittling, the way he reminded her she owed him everything, and yet everything he had was built on her inheritance, her bloodline. She looked down at her trembling hands. "He'll never believe this." Evelyn's eyes gleamed. "He doesn't have to. The courts will." Silence stretched between them, heavy with realization. Naomi rose slowly and crossed to where her twins slept. Their small fingers curled in peaceful fists. Unaware of the storm surrounding their names, she turned back to her mother. "So what happens now?" Evelyn's reply came like a challenge. Her voice calm but electric. "Is greater than now. You choose. You can disappear, start over somewhere quiet. Or," she leaned forward, her gaze sharp enough to cut through glass, "is greater than you can take back what's yours." Naomi glanced once more at her children, their fragile innocence, their future waiting to be written. When she looked up again, her eyes carried something new. "Resolve is greater than no," she said softly. "I'm done running. It's time he learns who he married." The world Naomi thought she knew began to split apart, strand by strand. Evelyn's penthouse turned into a war room. Screens glowed with encrypted files, folders marked confidential littered the table, and a team of silent analysts moved like shadows in the background. Naomi sat among them, the hum of quiet chaos surrounding her. Every click, every whispered update chipped away at the illusion she'd once called her marriage. Leela Park, Evelyn's lead investigator, entered with a thin black folder pressed to her chest. She was sharp, efficient, and unflinchingly calm, the kind of woman Naomi imagined her mother once was before life hardened her edges. "Mrs. Crane," Lena said, her tone polite but piercing. "Or should I say Miss Ellis? You'll want to see this." Naomi hesitated before taking the folder. Inside were photos, grainy, time-stamped, but undeniable. Ethan and Sienna, laughing together in the boardroom she'd furnished. Receipts of wire transfers, accounts opened in offshore banks, forged signatures, hers among them. Naomi's breath caught in her throat. He was stealing from me." Lena's expression didn't change. "From St. James Global, technically. But yes, every falsified transaction traces back to Crane Holdings. And there's more." She clicked a remote, and a projection filled the glass wall. Emails between Sienna Ward and executives from Novus Industries, one of St. James Global's oldest rivals. Lines of coded phrases and payments danced across the screen. Naomi's voice trembled. "She was spying on him? On both of you," Lena corrected. "Novus planted her to destabilize Crane Holdings. But it seems Ethan made it easy. His arrogance was their greatest weapon." The words landed like a physical blow. Naomi pressed a hand to her mouth. The betrayal wasn't just personal, it was strategic, calculated. She had been collateral in a game far larger than love. From across the room, Evelyn's voice rose, calm but laced with iron. "This is what I've been trying to teach you, Naomi. Power doesn't always roar, it whispers in contracts, in signatures, in silence. The ones who win are the ones who listen." Naomi turned toward her mother, eyes burning. "All this time, I thought love made me strong, but it made me blind." Evelyn stood, walking over to her daughter. "Then open your eyes." For a long moment, Naomi said nothing. The twins' soft cries echoed from the next room, fragile, human reminders of what was truly at stake. She went to them, lifting one into her arms. The baby's warmth pressed against her chest steadied her trembling resolve. "I won't let anyone use me again," she whispered, the words more vow than confession. "Not him, not anyone." Evelyn watched her closely, a hint of pride flickering beneath her restraint. "Then let's begin," she said. "You'll learn the art of patience, negotiation, and power the way I did, only faster." Naomi nodded, her voice firm. "Teach me everything." And for the first time, Evelyn smiled, not as a billionaire, but as a mother seeing her daughter rise. At first, Ethan thought it was a glitch. His platinum card declined at a dinner with investors, an inconvenience, he told himself, nothing more. But then his phone began vibrating non-stop. Emails from his finance department, panicked calls from his accountant, and the unmistakable tremor in Sienna's voice when she said, "They're freezing everything, Ethan. Every account." He slammed his fist against his office desk. "That's impossible. No one freezes my accounts." But as he stared at his computer screen, one notification after another flashed red. Access denied. Account locked. Transaction blocked. Crane Holdings' liquidity reports flickered to zero. Ethan's empire, his houses, his cars, his precious shares was collapsing in real time. Across the city, Naomi sat in Evelyn's penthouse, the skyline gleaming beyond the glass. Her mother's team had a live feed of media reports streaming across the monitors, headlines unraveling Ethan's polished image, one by one. Ethan Crane exposed. Secret affair and corporate fraud allegations. Source claims racist remarks made towards staffer. Investors pull out. Naomi stared at the screens, her reflection caught between two worlds, the woman who once loved him and the one watching his mask crumble. Her hands trembled, not from fear, but from the sheer surreal weight of it all. "He's losing everything," she whispered. "Everything he thought he controlled." Evelyn, seated beside her with a cup of black coffee, didn't look up. "He never controlled it. He just thought you'd never realize you did." Naomi turned toward her mother, eyes glistening. This feels like revenge." Evelyn finally looked at her then, calm but unyielding. "Is greater than no. This isn't revenge. This is reclamation." The words settled between them, heavy and cleansing all at once. On the monitors, Ethan was now pacing the Crane Holdings lobby, his face pale, barking at his staff. The camera zoomed in on his expression, panic replacing arrogance, desperation eclipsing pride. Naomi felt a pang of pity. It shocked her how quickly compassion tried to return. But then she remembered the rain, the marble steps, his voice telling her she and her children didn't belong. Her pity evaporated. She stood, her silhouette reflected against the glass, the city lights painting her in gold and shadow. "If everything he built is collapsing, someone has to rebuild it," she said quietly. "Someone who won't destroy it again." Evelyn watched her, silent, assessing. The faintest curve of approval touched her lips. Naomi crossed to the desk, opened a laptop, and began typing. A document appeared. Draft. Motion for board control. Transfer. Crane Holdings Group. Her hands steadied. Every keystroke felt like a pulse, a declaration. Evelyn's voice softened behind her. "Now you understand," she said. "Power isn't loud. It moves in silence until the world can't ignore it anymore." Naomi didn't look up. Then it's time the world hears me. And as she hit save, Ethan's empire, once built on deceit, shifted into her hands, one silent command at a time. The elevator doors opened to the top floor of Crane Holdings, and Naomi stepped out dressed in quiet authority charcoal suit, sleek bun, her mother's diamond pin at her collar. The air was sharp with tension, and the faint scent of cologne and ambition. Every step she took echoed like a countdown. The boardroom awaited. Ethan stood at the head of the table, surrounded by nervous executives. His tie was too tight, his smile too polished. He turned when Naomi entered, feigning control. "You shouldn't be here," he said coldly. "This meeting is about the divorce settlement." "Not whatever this is." Naomi's eyes didn't flinch. "I'm here to finalize everything," she said softly. Evelyn's legal team followed her inside two lawyers in tailored suits, briefcases gleaming. Behind them, Evelyn herself appeared at the doorway, silent and regal, choosing not to speak but to watch. The meeting began with rehearsed formality, Ethan's attorney outlining property divisions, custody terms, the generosity of Ethan's offer. Naomi sat quietly through it, expression unreadable. When it ended, she folded her hands neatly on the table. "Are you done?" she asked. Ethan frowned. "Excuse me?" Naomi nodded to one of her lawyers. "Proceed." The lawyer slid a folder across the table, opening it to reveal stamped documents, notarized pages, and a letterhead that silenced the room. "Crane Holdings," he began, "was founded with capital provided by the Street James Global Trust. The trust, as documented here, is held under Miss Naomi Ellis's name, meaning..." He clicked a remote. Screens around the room lit up legal filings, bank records, share allocations, all leading to one truth. Miss Ellis is, and has always been, the controlling shareholder of Crane Holdings Group. The room froze. Ethan's smirk faltered, replaced by raw disbelief. "That's impossible," he hissed. "This is forged." "You think I'll let some..." The lawyer cut him off with another click. The screens filled with signatures, Ethan's own, from years ago, countersigned by Street James trustees, time-stamped, verified. Bank confirmations followed, each one spelling out the same undeniable fact. Naomi rose slowly, every movement precise, powerful. Her voice was calm, but the steel beneath it was unmistakable. "Is greater than... You built your empire on my name, Ethan," she said. "I'm just taking it back." Silence cracked, then chaos. Board members whispered furiously. A security officer entered, uncertain but ready. Ethan lunged for the documents, shouting, "You can't do this. You don't deserve this." Naomi didn't move. "No," she said evenly. "I earned it the moment you forgot who I was." Two guards stepped forward. Evelyn gave a single nod. Ethan's voice broke as they escorted him out, his empire slipping away as easily as his control. When the doors finally closed, Naomi stood alone at the head of the table. The city lights behind her gleamed like a crown. Through the glass wall, Evelyn watched in silence, her expression unreadable, her eyes proud. Her daughter had returned, not the broken woman from the rain, but the heir she was always meant to be. The chandeliers glittered like frozen stars above the ballroom of the Grand Astor Hotel. Music drifted through the air, soft, expensive, practiced. Every guest was draped in wealth and whispers. At the center of it all stood Ethan Crane, his smile fixed for the cameras, his glass raised in triumph. "Tonight," he declared, "we celebrate resilience, rebirth, and the future of Crane Holdings." The crowd erupted into polite applause. Flashbulbs sparked. Reporters angled for better shots. To the outside world, Ethan looked untouchable, restored, heroic even. The perfect image of a man wronged and risen. But beneath the tailored veneer, panic festered. The accounts were still frozen. The investors still wary. Tonight wasn't about charity, it was survival. From her penthouse, Naomi had watched the coverage all week. Every interview, every photo op, a performance meant to rewrite the story. Evelyn had warned her. "He's trying to control the narrative. Let the world keep its illusions." We already won. But Naomi had made her decision. No, Mother, she'd said. Not yet. He made my humiliation public. My truth deserves the same stage. Hours later, the gala reached its peak. Ethan stood center stage, mid-toast, his voice smooth as silk. To new beginnings. And then the lights went out. Gasps echoed through the hall. The music cut abruptly, replaced by the distant hum of emergency generators. The chandeliers flickered once, then steadied to a dim golden glow. All eyes turned toward the entrance as the grand doors opened. Naomi stepped through first, radiant, poised. Dressed in black satin that shimmered like liquid shadow, she moved with unhurried grace. Evelyn followed, an elegant storm in silver, her presence commanding absolute silence. Ethan froze. His glass slipped from his hand, shattering against the marble. Naomi? He breathed, disbelief curdling into dread. The cameras swiveled toward her, the flashes returning like lightning. Naomi's voice was steady, amplified by the silence. You've had your moment, Ethan. Now it's my turn. Evelyn joined her at the microphone, her tone smooth as steel. Ladies and gentlemen, forgive the interruption. I'm Evelyn Street James, founder and chairwoman of Street James Global Group and the mother of your Real Crane Holdings CEO. The screens behind them flickered to life. Documents appeared, ownership records, trust certificates, and a live statement from the board confirming Naomi Ellis as controlling shareholder and new chief executive. The crowd erupted. Reporters shouted. Investors checked their phones in disbelief. Ethan's face drained of color as reality crashed over him. His empire, his illusion had been ripped away in front of the world. Naomi stepped closer, meeting his eyes one last time. Her voice carried, calm and unshakable, is greater than, you said I didn't belong here. Now it all belongs to me. The room exploded in flashes and murmurs. Evelyn placed a hand on her daughter's arm, pride and peace reflected in her eyes. And as the cameras captured the moment, the fallen king, the rising queen, the gala became something else entirely. Ethan Crane's final performance. The sea stretched endlessly beyond the balcony, waves glinting gold beneath the early sun. Naomi stood barefoot against the glass railing of her mother's coastal estate, a mug of tea warming her hands. Inside, through the open doors, the twins slept peacefully in matching cribs, their soft breaths, a rhythm that grounded her more deeply than any boardroom ever could. For the first time in months, there was no chaos, no press, no board meetings, no headlines screaming her name. Just quiet, just healing. Behind her, the gentle click of heels broke the silence. Evelyn Street James appeared, flawless, even in simplicity, a linen suit, her hair tied back, her expression softer than Naomi had ever seen it. She carried 2 cups of espresso and set one beside her daughter's tea. Still not a coffee drinker, Evelyn said lightly. You're more your father than I ever realized. Naomi smiled faintly, her eyes on the horizon. He believed in small beginnings. You believe in building empires. And you? Evelyn asked, leaning on the railing beside her. I believe, Naomi said quietly, that maybe both can coexist. They stood in silence for a while, the crash of waves below, gulls circling high above. For years, Naomi had resented this woman, her control, her absence, her unyielding need to shape the world. But now, seeing her not as an empire's architect but as a mother who'd fought in her own way, Naomi understood. Love didn't always look gentle. Sometimes it looked like survival. Evelyn spoke first. The merger papers are ready. Once you sign, Crane Holdings will dissolve into Street James Global. The lawyers can finalize it within a week. Naomi nodded. And the fund? Her mother's gaze warmed. Already established. The Naomi Ellis Foundation Scholarships for Women of Color Starting Businesses. You said you wanted your story to mean something. Naomi turned to her, emotion catching in her throat. You didn't have to do all this. Evelyn smiled. Just a hint. I didn't. You did. They watched the sun lift higher, light spilling across the water, gilding everything in sight. Naomi thought of the night she'd been left bleeding in the rain, of the headlight slicing through the storm as her mother stepped out of the SUV. That image, the woman she had once run from becoming her salvation, was burned into her forever. "Thank you," Naomi said softly, "for pulling up that night." Evelyn looked at her, eyes bright but steady. "It's greater than, I didn't save you, Naomi. I reminded you who you are." Naomi smiled through the tears that rose anyway. Later that morning, she walked into her new office floor-to-ceiling glass, sunlight pouring in, the skyline reflected like a crown behind her. Her twins' laughter echoed faintly from the adjoining room. The woman Ethan Crane had thrown into the rain now stood as the heir of two empires, one born of power, the other of grace. And for the first time, Naomi Ellis finally felt whole. Thank you for watching the story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. And do well to click on the subscribe button and turn on notifications for the next story.